Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on the world. My name is René Moldejonge, and on behalf of Microsoft, I want to welcome all of you. And I'm pretty excited. And the reason why I'm excited, we are here together with a fantastic partner and also a fantastic customer, where we will showcase one of the use cases that we've created together. Again, my name is René Moldejonge. I used to be the open source lead within Microsoft Western Europe, but now I'm also leading the partner ecosystem in the Netherlands, for parts of it, by the way. So let's start with a formal round of introduction. I introduced myself already. Klaus, Peter, KP, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you. Klaus Peter Major. I'm working for HCS Company as managing partner, and we have something in common. We both love open source, or probably we all have something in common. We love open source. And I'm happy to be here. I asked Joris a couple of times already, hey, we need to talk about this because this is very cool. And I'm excited that we're here.
And before we move it over, can you talk a little bit about your company? Who's your company? What
Yes.
do you do?
Our company is specialized in Red Hat open source and mainly in Openshift implementations. So we work with site reliability engineers, and we help them, our customers, to deliver reliable environments, and we modernize a lot of applications.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for the great also, introduction on that side. Let's move over to you, Joris. Who are you?
I'm Joris Cramwinckel. I work for Ortec Finance as a technologist. I'm doing that already for 9 years.
Time flies, right?
Time flies. I have a background in high-performance computing. Also at Ortec, I work in the candy shop. I can work with all new technologies. I'm responsible for all the new technologies at Ortec Finance. And cloud technologies have been on our agenda for a while now. Last year, I think I called KP. We decided that we believe all technologies are proven by now, and we want to do it first time right, and we need a cloud-native platform.
Nice.
That's why we started to work together.
And can you talk a little bit about your company, Ortec?
Yeah, Ortec Finance. What we do in a nutshell is we design mathematical models for the financial sector. We package that in software in different ways, as pure SaaS or SAC the APIs. Typically, these models help our customers balance the risk and return trade-offs.
Nice.
And recently, not recently, for a few years now, also climate risk next to financial risk is embedded in our models. And we do that on global scale.
Nice.
Pension funds, insurance companies, banks.
So it's a solution. The solutions you're creating, you're actually also selling to your own customers. So it's an ISV solution. ISV solutions you're creating that also are, and I think the stuff you've created and the solutions you've created together with us, that's a perfect example of it, right?
Yeah, that's one of the examples. One of our core engines, core mathematical models exposed in web applications,
cool.
Which we transformed.
Nice. Hey, and to the audience at home, or maybe you're at work, but I think KP created a couple of topics that we want to discuss. So he's going to lead that discussion. I will fill in as much as I can. But again, Joris is to be the subject matter expert that's going to explain what he did at his company. And KP is going to lead the way. So maybe walk us through it.
Thank you. Well, we did the short introduction already, right?
This
so
was
we can skip that.
This picture was taken during the Red Hat.
It was in Prague.
Prague.
During the Red Hat partner event.
Summit.
It was a time where we could gather together with a lot of people, and
you were there. I was there.
You were there as well. I remember that. We had a great time. I think we said enough about our companies, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yours came to us a year ago, I think.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Hey, we have a cloud native dream."
We did.
Yeah. Can you tell something about that?
So Cloudnative is a mean to achieve your objectives. It's not a goal per se. We discovered that when we revisited our complete enterprise technology strategy with a small group of engineers headed by our CTO. And the term Cloudnative first, set some friction in the organization. Cloud and typically the financial sector is rather conservative.
I agree.
When we proceeded the discussions, we discovered that things aren't like they were 2-3 years ago. Things move fast, also at our clients.
Absolutely.
And we discovered that achieving, so actually we had 3 objectives of the enterprise technology strategy. Technology should enable growth of the company. It should assure quality. With the Log4j situation last week, that's a proven point. But the quality standards in the financial sector are really high and tough. And the last objective was to deliver fast. We experienced that the lead time from an ID or a customer demand to production was perceived too long. We want
So
to
growth,
faster.
quality, and the last one was also faster.
Deliver
the
fast.
speed.
The speed of delivery.
Nice-
going from
nice objectives, by the way.
Instrumental of achieving those goals was a shift towards cloud, but also a shift towards using containers. And that started with a container platform. And,
Yep.
Then we had lots of discussion. What type of container platform or cloud-native platform, what you call it, platform is maybe a hype term nowadays, fits our organization best.
Yeah.
And we learned during our discussion that actually I called KP, we need a batteries included cloud-native platform.
That's a nice one.
Yeah. And the visual described it's the front page of one of our pilot reports. So we started doing a pilot with one of our products, and I pictured a slippery, cloudy road because we did not know where the road ended, how it would go. But along the way, for a couple of months, the road became sunnier and more straight. And we learned a lot.
Yeah, and you are still a very eager organization. So what we in our first conversation, I remember that I told you guys, okay, this is going to be technology and organizational change. Be prepared for that, and that's something you did very well. But we'll discuss it later on in a couple of statements as well.
Yeah, we fastened our seatbelts indeed for the slippery road. Yeah.
Maybe first, you decided then to go for a small pilot, the Navigator, right?
Yes.
Why did you choose the Navigator?
Yeah, Navigator is one of our younger propositions.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the code base is rather fresh. But it was built on our, what I call now a traditional or legacy stack. I interviewed all the product owners in our organization together with our CTO, and we assessed, okay, which product fits best in this mission. And being a young product, being a Navigator had a young team of engineers we had confidence in. That's why we selected the Navigator, and the stack that the Navigator is built on is very representative.
Nice.
For some other web applications. So,
Yeah.
So was it really an eager team, wanting to learn, open mindset, ready for change?
Yeah.
You're hesitating.
Yeah, in a sense that, like they did also not know what to expect, but that also proves that there was a lot of trust, and that was also instrumental in this first journey was the trust relation of the engineers.
Can you double click on that part, the trust part? Trust on what? Because that's not completely clear to me.
Now we all know the management strategic slides about Cloudnative.
Oh,
And the art is to get your value out of it, and that requires trust, because it was a very uncertain road. A lot of question marks still in the implementation. It's not like we don't work waterfall.
No.
So we didn't in that much detail plan. Yeah, we did the planning, but in terms of goals and not in terms of...
Yeah. It was, you were in the middle of a journey. The destination was not completely, the destination obviously perhaps was clear, but the road to the destination needed to be found out.
Yeah.
Get your point.
One of the things I remember that you were looking for a partner who could deliver the batteries included model, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
And we had some discussions and we're like, okay, we're not able to deliver that because it's so flexible still. So we advise you to I don't know, choose some platform, some container platform, and use us as a guidance, but don't pull those together.
Yeah.
Let's do some statements and see where we
That's nice. Yeah, I like it.
where we went. Cloudnative is all about technology.
I'm quite opinionated about this part.
Maybe it's too easy.
Obviously, but would really love to hear your perspective as well, yours.
It's definitely not. I think every shift in technology comes with change, and when you're about to change, you have a human part always. But I think Cloudnative is one of the first, at least in my brief career, that has so much emphasis on the human part, because handled incorrectly, Cloudnative will give you superpowers, but they should be handled with care. And when onboarding such a journey, be prepared that you need to change roles in your organization. You need to change responsibilities, and that, like for a small company, that's way easier than for a large company. Ortec Finance is around 300 FTE company, to put that in perspective. But still, that means that if you really want to change a role of what's currently an operations seat, and then want to transform that towards more to the developer side, for us that means that we need executive commitment for this, and eventually also the board needs to agree on such shifts. Yeah. So you definitely don't need to underestimate that. I think it's 50-50.
What did you experience in this project or in this pilot? Did you change anything to your organization?
Now, first, during the pilot, we give it the status of a project, so that we, in our company, had all the freedom to organize as we think was best. And we changed that many times. Also, my vision changed many times, because it's the surface that a container platform touches is really large. It's current operations, it's the engineers. We have chapters that govern the standards in the company. They have a role in it as well. And in the end, you need a team to maintain and govern the platform, and enable engineers in the onboarding process of
What I like, by the way, also in how you've set things up, and of course, I said I was opinionated, but I agree. To me, it's people, process, technology. All parts need to be bear in mind. But what I like as well, treat this as a project. It's an agile approach. You're not opinionated whatsoever. It's a journey, so you don't know exactly what's going to happen in there. It's empowering also the team to take to become creative and to think outside of the box to make sure to focus on the innovation part. Celebrate also the success of this, because again, if the project is successful, you're gonna increase the scope, and the project team is gonna be the new heroes within the organization because they've achieved something extraordinary. And I like another thing that I like really well, what to do with superpowers. If you get superpowers, it sounds like a Marvel comic story. So you really need to think about that part as well. So I think it's a perfect explanation. So thanks a lot.
I agree, especially about the superpowers.
Yeah, I'm going to use it also.
Okay, let's take the next one. Batteries included makes life easier. You came to us with the story about batteries included, and you were talking all the time about batteries included, and I loved it very much because I thought, well, you want as less hassle as possible, as you just want to use it, right?
Yeah.
What did you mean by batteries included at the beginning of the project?
I think it's twofold. I think first, all container platforms are driven by Kubernetes. And you can start building your own platform, start plain vanilla Kubernetes and build a log stack on it, a monitoring stack on it, implement your airbag. We acknowledge very soon that that's not our core business. We see some of our clients on large scale doing this, but they have platform teams with 50 FTE. We don't have that, and we don't. It's not our core business. First, we want a Kubernetes platform, enterprise grade, like when a log stack updates, it can happen that other components of your platform are not compatible, and we don't. Yeah, we do have the expertise, but we don't have the energy to constantly have the stack compatible.
Yeah.
What I like, by the way, sorry to chip in here, but I think this is also something from the Microsoft side we call tech intensity. We expect our customers to focus on stuff that's really creating a competitive advantage for them to compete in the market, and take the technology stack for granted. We're gonna have your back on that side.
Yeah.
And that's also especially the parts that you're actually explaining right now. So the battery should be included on that side, so we can focus on what we do best, and that's to create solutions that bring us value for our customers.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And the second part is infrastructure.
Cool.
We don't want to hire people with screwdrivers anymore. We have on-premise data centers, and that so far worked excellent.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, the standards grow. Things like region redundancy would be very expensive to offer to our clients remaining on-premise.
Yeah.
So that's, of course, that's where the term cloud comes from, but we therefore preferred a container platform solution that was glued on top of infrastructure. Also, the batteries included meant for us that we should be able to rely on the auto scaling of the underlying virtual machines of the vendor, and not have to worry on that ourselves.
I remember a discussion about, I think it was the image repository, and that you said as well, I don't care as long as it's batteries included, so let's see what the cloud vendors provide.
Yeah. So every platform has its own philosophy, and when we wrote down our principles, one of the first things we wrote down is managed services over do-it-yourself.
Yeah.
So that meant if we start with a platform, we will continuously increment it with components or services if developers need stuff or new components, we should be able to cater for that. And at the moment we were considering how to provide Redis solutions, and first we look in production and acceptance, we want to rely on managed services.
Cool.
And in dev and test environments, we sometimes make exemptions. We just install the operator and do it ourselves. But yeah, again, that's the batteries included.
Good explanation.
Part,
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Next one. You can trust your vendor or hyperscaler.
Again, I'm opinionated.
Sorry, Renee. What do you think about this?
No, I think the trust, and all jokes aside, I think, in the end also as a hyperscaler, as a tech provider, we build on trust. If there's no trust, there's no future for us. I'm quite passionate to work for a great company like Microsoft, because if you take a look at the innovation that Microsoft is providing now also to the market, I'm really, really proud to be part of it. And obviously, if we talk about the trust element, if we talk about the security element, there are so many things that we're investing in. We can spend hours on that part alone, but of course, it's not about me. It's not about us. It's about the customer. It's about also the partners. And in this case, of course, we would like to hear your perspective. Nobody cares about what I have to say.
Yeah, I think that's key. The way we operate, we want as little attack surface as possible, cybersecurity-wise. We had discussions with our security office, and he was blown away when I explained him we don't have file system access in the platform ourselves. So even if an attacker got our admin credentials or whatsoever, like a ransomware, is out of the question because we can't do it ourselves. If we can't do it, an attacker can't do it as well. So the remaining attack surface will be from underneath, from our vendors, and yeah, we have significant trust that on the scale cloud vendors work, they outperform us what we could do ourselves by big length. And I think also what's strong here is that the incentives of the vendors in the market are really strong to be best in class cybersecurity wise.
They need to be.
We need to be.
I remember that when we were talking 1 year ago, all the cloud vendors were trying to get to you guys because they all wanted you guys to work with them.
Yeah.
So why did you choose for Microsoft? Pretend Renee is not here.
Pretend Renee is not. No, we first fall in love with the philosophy of Openshift. That was exactly the type of batteries included what we need. And Openshift allowed us not to. So there's a strategic advantage of not to marry with a cloud vendor. I think.
I agree.
Also our big clients that have multi-cloud strategies. That's there for a reason or for safety, not only commercial reasons. Now I lost what I tried to say. Too much thinking and talking at the same time.
Pick it up again, because I think you're hitting really, a really important point here. It's all about choice, and you need to have and offer choice also to your customers in the end. And I think it's about multi-cloud. In the end, also your customers need to have an exit strategy. Yeah. If you rely then on a single set of technology, or you're locked into a specific hyperscaler, that's not the way going forward. So I agree with you, having a solution, a technology solution provided by Red Hat, in this case Openshift, that runs on every cloud, even on-prem, that's also your escape route.
Yeah, that's a strong strategic advantage. Yeah. And why did we end up with Arrow, Azure Red Hat Openshift? Arrow had a proven track record. By the time we had to decide, the AWS has a similar service by now called Rosa, but it was still young and immature.
Yeah,
and,
I remember that.
We are far more fun. No, all jokes aside, I think the solutions are on par, and I agree. At that point in time, we definitely had a lot of references already, and we were in touch with you guys as well. We loved also the interaction, and in the end, it's also people buying from people. And in the end, I think the account team had a good connection with you guys. So,
and the fast track engineers were amazing.
That's good to hear.
That really fueled our transformation. To have that low barrier access to support, even the most technical issues. To have that hotline was. Yeah,
they're amazing. I agree.
Was pivotal for our success, and that was for database questions, for networking questions, but also for very trivial questions. How to set up my cost management? Can you please direct me?
Help. Nice. All right. Next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Managed Openshift versus managed Kubernetes.
Yeah.
We talked already a little bit about this.
But we did compare. During the Navigator pilot, I had a graduate student, and I asked him, okay, we choose for Arrow, but show me how it will look like if we run it in AKS.
That's nice.
And what I liked is like cost was never an incentive to do this, but cost-wise, these solutions don't differ that much. It's really about what fits your organization best, and I do strongly believe that managed Kubernetes for anyone operating on our scale is the solution. And whether it's managed Openshift or AKS or EKS or whatever flavors we have,
Rosa, whatever.
It's a matter of flavor.
I think what I like on this slide is the choice element. As a customer, you can choose, and I think your statement is spot on. It's what's fit for purpose for your organization. And what I really appreciated also in this whole cycle and all this whole journey we're in the middle of still, is the role the partner played. Because in the end, it's also about making sure that you get all the information so you as an organization can make a well thought decision what's best fit for purpose for your organization. And I think that's a critical role. That's also something I will salute big time. Of course, I represent this company, but nevertheless, the open source principles, ground principles in there about collaboration, sharing, and openness, making sure that everybody has the same. It's like you said before, we're in the middle of a candy store, and there are all kinds of great candies out there. You like all of them, but which one are you going to choose? And having somebody that's going to navigate you, in this case, HCS, that's helping you also to navigate you what's best fit for purpose for us and supply you with all the information is something also that from our side we deeply appreciate. And it's on us to continue to deliver the proof elements that were the best choice for you. So that's my take on this one.
Yeah, cool. I remember that our guys love to work with you guys as well. Even nowadays and today, again, give them a puzzle and let's solve it together. And the funny thing is that we started off with batteries included. Can you deliver that? We were like, no, but we can help you. And now we're still doing the same thing. And we're learning on the journey as well. So it's cool. I like it very much.
Cool.
Azure or AWS?
Yeah. I think we assessed also the ROSA service, like from a functional perspective, and I think they are at par. It's the minor things like how is support arranged, where can I go if I have a questions, how do they handle Openshift updates, for instance, how adequate are those? I can't say. We didn't work with ROSA, but I would expect that it's very similar.
Yeah, but in the end, you worked with Azure and with Arrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have students as well, and one of the students, he said, well, I want to finish my studies and I want to do a study on how do you choose your platform? And I was like, good luck to that, because there are so many ingredients that make a choice for a platform. But do you remember what eventually made the choice of the platform you chose right now? was there one trigger or is it a coincidence? I don't know. It can be a relationship or it can be anything.
No, but we worked with both Azure and AWS before. And in the end, I also the procurement on that respect was done by our head of operations. So I was like, yeah, please do that.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong preference, and we landed on Azure Arrow.
No.
I think the most important thing was confidence that we got from Arrow, having a longer track record.
Yeah, I remember that. They were, I think Rosa was a little bit later. Like
It was announced
coming out.
in November,
Yeah.
the reInvent of November 2020,
Yeah.
and general available in February.
Yeah.
That's 1st of February, exactly when we started.
Cool. Next one.
Sometimes I can listen. Right?
Wondering if you want to add something, but okay. Now something that I haven't been in every session, but as soon as I was in the session, I felt a lot of energy from you guys, but from our guys as well. And I remember an awesome session about data persistence.
Yeah.
And the question is, did you tackle it?
I think so, but not with a decision tree like this. That's
What
not
was the challenge with data persistence in a project like this?
So there are many aspects in choosing the right persistence technology, whether it's relational database or NoSQL or file or blob or using Kubernetes features, and then still do I operate it myself or do I take it managed? What's not in your decision tree is the licensing aspect. You do have, when you start Cloudnative, you have the freedom to, it's carte blanche. You can pick and choose your stack. Well,
Candy store, again.
Yeah, it's still the candy store, but you have to do that with care. It's tempting to choose for free open source components always, but that's not always the best case. One example is we are currently in the stage of making the architectural designs for our flagship product, onboarding the Cloudnative platform, and it relied on SQL Server storage, relational storage, in order of magnitude terabytes per client. And when we started filling in the Azure calculator, like the figures were pretty high. I would say like several tens of thousands of euros per month for our storage need for that product. But we ended up with a solution which was still SQL Server, but then the serverless version, because our load of these heavy models is very burst-like. It's beginning of the month or end of the year when people start using it. And that really made it a big difference. We were able to pay per use also on the license bit, which made it a business decision whether you want to shift to a license-free technology. But then the difference, if it's pay per use, then the difference becomes smaller, and it's not for the software architects, but more for the business owners to decide whether that feature is valuable or not. And also, what's also not in this picture is that we clearly we give more freedom in dev and test environments. People can request operators and can play around. I think it's important for developers that they can, if they want to use Redis, they install the Redis operator or whatever technology. Once they agree with the chapters to onboard it in their stack, then we will think about the acceptance and production environments. And I think up to now, we choose fully managed services for that, just because we don't want to have DBAs in our engineering teams.
So in the development space, you give freedom, and then there's a certain point in the production space that you say, we're going to do it with this managed services.
Yeah, we're not saying we're saying what's the chapter saying, and then we look at the case.
How are you going to support this?
Yeah. But if it's a proven technology we have a data management chapter which governs these quests.
Yeah. Cool.
I like the creative part. At first, if you just test, just go out there, use the candies from the store and do whatever you would like with it. And afterwards, once it comes to a certain stage, then of course there are some processes in place just to make sure that since this is an environment that's going to also impact your customers, you need to be sure that this is completely stable. And I like the approach big time. So make sure that they can do whatever they like on this side, make all the tools available. But at the same time, once this progresses, then you need to make some solid decisions how this can impact also the customer experience. I like it.
Yeah.
Next one.
Yeah, let's take the next one. I mean, unless of course we want to have a webinar of 1.5 hours, of course.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
We enabled our developers to deliver faster and write better code.
Write better code. I don't think a container platform will help you write better code. Maybe because you have more focus, but that's also not necessarily true, I think.
No.
So what happens with developers? So indeed, we perceive that they are developing faster, but that's not because they code faster, but also because lead times are way less.
Oh yeah.
You don't need to send a ticket. I need a virtual machine, or I need to increase in storage. We choose for a self-service approach.
Yeah.
So developers can most of the time cater themselves. But you do need to be very aware that the instead of only building your software, development teams are building and running their software. And we try to give a developer experience for the full operations. So also the running bit is working a lot with Git and YAMLs and
yeah.
So the skill set is rather homogeneous. You work across the same set. I work from my IDE with Git and I can control the whole pipeline. However, it does come with an increased cognitive load for developers. And I think for every organization that's different, but traditionally we are an organization that builds software by econometricians for econometricians, so we tend to like high cognitive loads.
Yeah.
But also for other organizations, you have self-service platforms that might be a better fit for them. Yeah. But nevertheless, I think the additional task and responsibilities, the portfolio of the engineering team increases in stuff what they need to do. Mm-hmm. And we can see we can do that budget neutral. So engineering teams don't have to expand. Yeah. They have to change roles, and they have to be guided and educated, like you did with us the first time. What's also key here is that our platform team enables team. It's really different way of operations. Yeah. We learn from.
Yeah, I recognize that.
The term harbor master.
Do you have a specific example that you can actually talk to on what you did with his team?
Well, I think the harbor master is a very nice example of somebody who helps the teams to find a spot and use the platform and work with it and just, I don't know, they just help, right? They enable. And I think that's the difference.
I like the metaphor big time, by the way.
Yeah, it's a nice metaphor. And we had a lot of discussions about that, which is not at all technology related, but it's related to the way you work.
Yeah, and the way you behave.
Yeah.
That's also, like going from ticket ops to self-service with a harbor master, it's like, okay, there are the toilets and there's your power supply. And
that's nice.
But you have to help incoming
But you have to do it
boats.
yourself, right?
Yeah,
He's just guiding.
Yeah.
But was it also about reinventing roles then? Because the responsibilities were shifting, obviously. I mean, that's also what I'm hearing you talk about. Was that part of it as well?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think this is amazing. And to your point, also when you started this journey and you were talking about goals, you were talking about, of course, quality. But to your point, it's not going to help you to write better code. But in the end, the whole process is the output ideally is going to be high quality and deliver faster, which was, I think, in the end also one of the goals, right? So I think, that's something that resonates big time. So I don't know, did you create the statement?
I did, yeah.
Oh, cool. Like it. That's one.
But the thing I like the most about your company is that it doesn't matter who you talk to, but they want to learn.
Yeah.
And this is something which is this is key. And this is what we experienced throughout 1 year. I always think it goes faster. Maybe you guys do that as well. Well, give me 3 months and I'll show you. It's not the way it goes.
Is that really then also the growth mindset that's part of your organization? And more learn it all. You want to know everything. You want to get to learn everything and all the new topics which are out there in the market. Is that the culture within your company?
We have a innovative culture indeed. But yeah, the setup, setting it up as a project that also allowed for a lot of creativity. Yeah. Instead of steering on proficiency, we gave room to the creativity, and that's something in retrospect I would advise also other organizations that are about to onboard such a journey. But you have to make very clear agreements with the executives, or you also need to project kind of what they can expect. And
that's something I liked also big time. Your exec team was highly involved, also on the desires when you started this journey, and in the end, of course, we're quite pleased with the outcome. So I think that's definitely a good mixture.
Yeah. Let's move on. We've changed our way of working.
100%.
Okay, next one. No, just kidding.
What is the biggest change you experienced?
I think how technology interacts with the human. We use a lot of Slack integrations. Instead of passively looking at dashboards, there are tons of dashboarding tools, but at some point we're like, okay, that's very nice to have at your Scrum board if your team is physical at one table, but that's not the case. That's something we really changed.
I remember we opened the Slack channel as well.
Yeah.
Which was for us, I don't know, the first time we do it now more often with customers and with partners.
You're talking about Teams channels, right? Or
sorry, Teams channels.
Okay,
no, but it was very awesome because everybody was like, "Hey, cool! I can see what's happening there."
Yeah.
I think that's really nice. Change our way of working. Definitely, I think your first response. Yeah, definitely. I think I like the emotional part of this one. Absolutely.
Cool. We work intensively with vendors to challenge us.
Mostly to help us, but
we can help you on the challenge.
Did you or
Yeah, we had well, as I mentioned, the fast track engineers. We worked a lot with them. Anything Red Hat related mostly was covered already by HCS before we needed to call Microsoft.
I think also, my just my 2 cents. I think what I like, and that's also I think the innovative approach that you have. You're already challenging yourself big time, and I think that's also the reason why I said we're getting support from the vendors, obviously. The way that you're approaching also stacks is, the tech intensity that I mentioned before. just consume what's already standard out there, and you focus also on the innovation, and you know better than anybody the innovation that you need to address your customers. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and vendors do play a very important role, not to cherry pick the nicest logos, and also don't over-engineer things.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Because that's also part of the superpowers. You get increased flexibility, then engineers have to.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, I agree, and I think that the thing that we also liked in the collaboration also together with Red Hat, of course, we provide this joint managed service to the market, where there's below the hood, there's of course joint support that we deliver to our customers, and in the end, the business pains that we're solving because of this platform as a service offering that we have as a managed service, that's really outstanding, and I think this is a great example.
I agree. Last one. Dun-dun-dun.
Cloudnative. I was expecting another one. Let's take this one. That's fine.
It's sometimes considered as the holy grail, right? Cloudnative.
Yeah, I had to explain Cloudnative many times, and my explanation changed over the year. And I tend to believe now that I think there's no industry definition of Cloudnative, but we learned that we do so many things differently. Like doing GitOps is also the way to go, right? Yeah. And yes, for us a cloud-powered container engine is instrumental for doing all these things, for unlocking all these superpowers. But in the end, I think Cloudnative is just a movement, maybe that's fueled by technological advancements like cloud. There's no like you have maybe in art or in building architectures. Yeah, you have these all kinds of movements as well, but you always have a counterpart.
Yeah.
And I don't think Cloudnative has a counter movement.
No.
Even if you run stuff on-prem, you still most likely will use a lot of container technologies.
To me, I think Cloudnative is a way for. I think it's about innovation and embracing innovation, and I think Cloudnative represents a certain stream of innovation with doing things a different way, people, process, technology, redefining also what it means to you as a company. And I think what's going to be the next big hit, we were talking about serverless already, there's all kinds of new stuff going on over there. I think embracing the innovation mindset, I think that's what it's all about. And I think to us at least, Ortec Finance is really representing that part in really embracing new ways of working, embracing new technology, embracing also, to change your own internal processes, because in the end you need to serve your customers. You want to stay relevant not only now, but also towards the future. And I think that's really something that we appreciate big time moving forward. The thing I was expecting, by the way, was what's next, because I think Cloudnative is the way going forward. But
good question.
I heard through the grapevines that I think there's already some integration elements with machine learning, maybe some other stuff going on. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that word.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. So we do along the way. Indeed, we also implemented. We had some machine learning models. Traditionally, we do a lot of econometrics.
Nice.
But we amended that with machine learning, and also we apply the Azure ML platform.
Nice.
For instance, for appraising residential real estate, like all the objects here in Amsterdam.
That's a nice one.
I think it's 500,000 objects you have to appraise manually otherwise, but our software is doing that, and that's also fueled by AI models trained in Azure ML.
I know a lot of my colleagues are going to be really happy to hear this and want to know more about this, so expect some calls from my colleagues about this one.
So it will influence how they levy your tax, so I'm not sure.
Hey, I don't live in Amsterdam, so I don't see the issue.
We might need to tune the model a little bit.
I think this guy he lives in the northern part of the Netherlands, so he doesn't have anything. Maybe we should be there.
But what's next? So what's currently fun to share is that we do have a strong high-performance computing need. So we have a flagship product that utilizes Microsoft HPC PAC. And we are currently in the process of prototyping how these type of workloads run in Arrow.
Nice.
With Argo workflow.
That's fantastic.
And that's a very fun project.
Really nice.
We're still, I'm not sure of the English term, but we're still with our hands in the dirt.
Yeah. Feet in the mud.
Yeah, feet in the mud with that project. But yeah, we have contact with the Argo engineers, also and the fast track engineers to be able to move our workloads from a Microsoft HPC to
Nice.
Arrow. And then we also heavily rely on the auto scaling capabilities. And
Is it with the Open Data Hub as well?
Open Data Hub utilizes Argo as well. It's a Red Hat project.
Yeah.
I'm also involved in Linux Foundation umbrella project called OSC Climate, where we, what my team contributes is we build models that connect financial risk and climate risk.
Yeah.
Because for long-term investors, a 30, 50, or even 100 years horizon is very important.
Yeah.
Now take climate into account then. And yeah, there we apply also that's driven by Openshift.
Cool.
That's also how by being also involved in a lot of open source projects, that's also how we get to learn a lot of these technologies. That's how we got to learn Argo.
Yeah.
I think that's what I like. And again, collaboration, sharing, openness. I think, we need to see if we can find some, I want to continue this conversation big time, but I think we're running out of time right now. But one remaining question from my side. I think that in the audience there are a lot of people that will start on this journey. What we've learned from you, this is evolution to evolution to evolution. This is a continuous journey that you're setting up yourself. If you needed to advise people that will start this cloud native journey, can you describe in a couple of sentences what they need to do?
Key elements. I think key success factors is create internally a sandbox environments, a sufficient room to not be constrained in technology decisions, but also in organizational decisions. And draw the process up front and get an agreement with your executives. I think that's key. Having access to knowledge and support, I think it's also crucial. And also, most importantly, have a dynamic plan. Don't think you can waterfall this. You will learn along the way, and there's also no upfront no solution that works best for you. You have to find out yourself.
That's nice.
Really depends on your culture, on your team topologies, and the level of change you can handle, the level of responsibilities you can bear. Yeah.
I like it. Exec sponsorship. That's
that's key. Without that, it's a disaster.
Make sure that you get in touch with people that have done this before. And I think in this case, the partner HCS did a tremendous job in supporting you and making sure that they share the knowledge with you. And the last part, this is going to be, to your point, also one of the slides. This is going to be a cloudy road. You don't know what the direction of the road is going to be. So be flexible and have an open mindset and embracing also.
Stay curious. Yeah.
Is that a good summary?
I think so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anything to share from your side?
No, I'm very happy that we did this, and I'm looking forward to the next episode.
That's HPC. Nice. Alrighty. Well, on behalf again of this whole team, HCS, Ortec Finance, and also on behalf of Microsoft, thanks for tuning in, and we sincerely hope that you find this webinar beneficial. Any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out to us. All of us are on LinkedIn, so reach out to us in case of any questions. Thanks for your attention and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.